The negative media social engineering of the African American culture. Those who are ignorant will think that what I'm disclosing is black scapegoating. It's absolutely not. Those who controls a people's media images controls their culture because people often imitates and becomes those false derogatory and stereotypical media depictions of their group that they've accepted as being their true reality. Like, for example, when black actresses were repeatedly hired to roll their eyes and roll their necks with an attitude within movies and popular TV shows, many black women started imitating the behavior while insisting that it's a natural black woman's behavior. However, it's actually not. It's actually a behavior that has been imitated by many black women after repeatedly seeing it depicted within the media. Most people naively believe that the media reflects our reality. But in truth, it is more often we that imitate what we see and learn from the media. A group's identity is greatly shaped by how they see themselves repeatedly depicted within the media. People often becomes those media depictions of themselves that they've accepted as being their realities, even the derogatory ones. It's a true and well-proven social science called media social engineering. It's a social science that the ruling white elites have totally mastered. Because they control the media images that millions of African Americans accept as being our true reality, they've exploited this scenario to negatively steer the African American culture while misleading us to believe that we're negatively steering ourselves. Through their control over our media images, within their produced black exploitation films during the 60s, white oppressive forces socially engineered us to call ourselves bad, to call our homes cribs, and to call our women mamas. This subliminally embedded a juvenile message into the subconscious minds of the black population. It's what's known as subliminal messaging. Subliminal messaging are messages that are designed to bypass the conscious mind but become embedded within the subconscious mind, thus adversely affecting the targeted populations at a subconscious level. The white oppressors also hijacked the hip-hop industry and used it to shift black aggressions away from the white society and redirected it against ourselves. This was achieved through rap lyrics with the repetitive theme of black aggressions being directed towards blacks. This shifted black collective aggressions away from the white oppressive society and redirected against ourselves. That propaganda campaign also conveys the subliminal message that it is black people that are now our worst enemies. Embedding that into our communities profoundly divides our ranks. They also use the hip hop industry to socially engineer us to call ourselves by derogatory words. This is because words have power over the subconscious mind. We function based upon the words we assign to ourselves. This is why men that proclaim themselves as being thugs are more likely to engage in a fight than to avoid one. It's also why women that proclaim themselves as being bees, B word, often become stubbornly unreasonable. And when we call ourselves by the N word, this psychologically conditions us to perceive ourselves through a false, inherent, subordinate identity that aids the white society in maintaining its social capital and social dominance over us. When we call others by the N word, we dehumanize each other. This makes it easier to mistreat and to even unalive each other. The white prison industry is filled with black men that calls themselves by the N-word and that calls each other by the N-word. In fact, the majority of incarcerated black men does so. White social engineering scientists deliberately program millions of African American men to do so to achieve this agenda. Words affect how we function. This is a psychological phenomenon that white social scientists have thoroughly research. They placed an elaborate negative spell upon the subconscious minds of millions of African Americans with the N word. They also use negative media social engineering to socialize us to dress like sagging clowns and to act like ghetto buffoons. This creates preconceived prejudice towards the African American population that also aids in maintaining white social dominance over the black population. This isn't some feeble-minded attempt at scapegoating that wrongly blame whites in order to absolve ourselves of our own responsibility, as so many have been brainwashed to respond. It's the absolute truth. The African American culture is being negatively steered by white oppressive forces. They're waging a covert war against the African American population, a war that most of us don't understand. Most African Americans are totally clueless that many of our thoughts, the thoughts that are commonly held among us, were deliberately subliminally embedded into our collective minds through the white society's monopoly over the media content that we repetitively receive. Most African Americans are also unaware of the fact that much of what we believe as being our own swagger are actually a testament of white media social engineering. Because we African Americans have been totally stripped of our true identity and culture during the enslavement of our ancestors, we are therefore more susceptible to negative media social engineering. This is why white oppressive forces have not been able to successfully socially engineer Native African Americans to also self-identify themselves by the N-word. They weren't totally stripped of their true identity and culture as we were. The reason why most African Americans have totally normalized all of these terrible changes that have been done to our culture is because of what's called the herd mentality. The herd mentality is the tendency for people to conform to the beliefs and behaviors of the group they belong to, even when those beliefs and behaviors makes no sense at all and even insults their own intelligence. The term has been studied from perspectives including biology, psychology, and sociology. White social engineering scientists used the science of the herd mentality to mentally enslave millions of African Americans. And the mental enslavement is so effective that millions now fight against those of us who try to free their minds. Then, through their monopoly over information that are fed into our minds, the white oppressors socially engineered us to exclude them from all of our analysis regarding our oppression and to instead blame everything onto ourselves, thus trapping millions of us within the black people's matrix. The reason why no black leaders have spoken up on the situation is because we no longer have black leaders. We no longer have true black leaders. We only have black puppet leaders that actually works on behalf of the white establishment. And the reason why most African Americans aren't able to see this reality is because our minds, most minds, are buried within our fictional Bibles. Those of us who know the truth must teach, and a speaker of truth has no friends. African proverb. It is time to wake up from your slumber.